mean, it's up to the person. I don't think any law or any government should tell people when and when they can't have sex.
Sexuality. I think that one is just a feeling for someone. I'm also a Christian, so in my religion, we don't educate about sex before marriage.
I don't care. I mean, it doesn't matter to me at all. If you want to have any casual relationship before you get married, then I think it's your choice.
I think like gender is more like something that changes throughout the time, but your sexuality by birth is given to you biologically, but then the gender sometimes may not match with your sexuality or like your sexual orientation. So my own perspective and belief about premarital sex. I mean, I'm not Catholic, so or I'm not like a religious person, although my family could be, but I've never been told by my parents that I cannot have intercourse before I have sex. Getting married to a certain people is like buying a car. You've got to try it first. You've got to see if the car runs the way you want, or if it's comfortable when you drive, if everything that meet your criteria when you want to buy a car. Because once you buy a car, the price will come down. It's really difficult for you to return the car, and then if it's not comfortable or if it's dangerous, you might have accident on the way, and that way is how to say, it's like idiom, not idiom, it's like a way of saying that is your journey of marriage. If you don't choose a car wisely, then your path of marriage could be like risky or dangerous.
We hope the expert gives you some ideas about the sexuality concept. Our video project aims to explore Chiang Mai University international students' perceptions of sexuality and sexual orientations. But before that, let's find out how Chiang Mai University expects its students to dress according to their sex rather than their gender identifications. Chiang Mai University is a Thai government university that has mutual following regulations in terms of university policy of graduation uniform dress code for students by sex division. All the events and ceremonies require a dress code for males and females to ensure neatness, decency, and a good impression, to be socially acceptable for the sake of the students and the university's honor and dignity, and to be in line with the education management of Chiang Mai University. There are required dress code for males and females for special occasions such as graduation events, registration days, grand rehearsal days, and so on. Sex-segregated toilets are another example of gender exclusive and discrimination because we can only see male and female labels for bathrooms. In reality, we don't have only two genders, and sex-segregated toilets are a serious challenge, especially for the transgender people. This proposition of male and female symbols promote gender exclusion and discrimination, as this can be a fearful experience for people who don't conform to traditional gender norms. Sexual orientation refers to sexual and romantic feelings for people of the same gender, a different gender, or more than one gender. There are more than one sexual orientations in our world, including heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, and so on. People who identify their sexual orientation as straight or heterosexual typically feel attracted to people of a different gender than themselves. People who identify as lesbian or gay typically feel attracted to people of the same gender as themselves. People who identify as bisexual typically feel attracted to more than one gender, such as being attracted to both women and men. Pansexual is a term used by people who feel attracted to more than one gender. We obviously see heterosexual couples flirting in public spheres. However, we rarely see romantic affairs of gay or lesbian couples in public spaces, so that we are wondering the reasons behind, and it makes us more motivated to explore people's perceptions of sexuality and sexual orientations. In order to understand how people perceive sexuality and sexual orientations, we are interviewing Chiang Mai University's international students who come from different countries with different families, religions, and cultural backgrounds. So let's find out how they talk about the matter of sexuality and sexual orientation based on their lived experiences.
So the differences between gender and sex to me is that gender is something that's socially constructed, and gender could change over time. Your gender preferences might be different when you were born to when you get older. However, sexuality is something that genetically, biologically, you were born with. For example, you were born with as a male or a female, or a girl or a boy. So that's the sexuality.
Sex is a biological trait of the people, right? So it's whether the man, a woman, or somebody is transgender. But transgender is, this is about a chromosome, right? And whether you have the X, Y, or the sticks. Right? So this is more in the biological character of the sex, right? And in contrast for the gender, it is more about how you think about what is masculine, what is feminine, how you think about what to be a man, what to be a woman, or how you identify yourself, to fall into which category. So that's why it's a societal characteristic as gender. So I think that's the difference here.
Sexuality. I think that one is just a feeling for someone. Like just me, if I have some emotional feeling for someone, so it will land in a relationship. So it's just a personal feeling you have for someone.
So I may be wrong, but I think like every person has their own like unique sexuality. I don't know if it's just about like how you're attracted to someone, or who you're attracted to, or what you're attracted to. But I think that sexuality is more than just like lust and love. It's about who you identify as, and it doesn't always rely on another person. It's about you and your personal self and who you are.
It's a good question to ask, and also a little bit controversial. But I believe that as I am an open-minded person, sexual pleasure is something that it's up to your choice. It's your decision whether you want to have sex before you got married or after you got married.
So for the pre-sex before marriage in my country, I'm also a Christian. So in my religion, we don't educate about pre-sex before marriage. But in this modern world, you cannot, with this internet, you cannot like distract the upcoming ones from this sex before marriage. But with all that in my religion, we talk against it. So for that one, I think in my country and as a Christian, we don't support that. But we cannot also do anything about it, because if the younger ones still want to, I think we cannot infringe on their right too. So for me, for the sex before marriage, nice stand, right? So if you don't go into the relationship, as I said in my religion, you don't have time for a nice stand. But now, we don't know what like the world is turning into, and then a lot of education, a lot of sex education on the internet. So they get the opportunity to use, and then they find, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. So they just get engaged without knowing the moral, and then without knowing education about it, they just get themselves involved. So I think if you stay away, or if you ignore sex before marriage, you don't have you will not engage in such this attitude.
So I think as long as the couple are at an appropriate age, like maybe older than 18, I think it's okay to like make the decision to have sex before marriage. I mean, it's up to the person. I don't think any law or any government should tell people when they can't have sex. I mean, obviously, teenagers and young people shouldn't be having sex, but I think if you're an adult, it's your own decision. If you want to have a one-night stand, if you want to have sex before marriage, and yeah, I think like how do you say the word, polyamorous relationships. I think if like the couple, if they're mature and like they're not trying to like hurt the other person by sleeping with other people, I think it's okay to, you know, be open to trying new things and seeing more than just one person. Humans are like community people. We're supposed to be in groups. So if the couple is mature, I think it's up to those, for them to decide. But it shouldn't be to hurt the other person.
It's just very natural that people have a different sexual orientation. So if people can ask me what I think, then just let it go. Right? Why would we have to have like any particular perception of the people, you know, that choosing the partners? Just sometimes their choice, but I also think it's a biological trait as well. So we cannot just, you know, choose or change, right? Some people might say this is sociological forces for making people have different partners, but yeah, with my childhood experience, and I mean, for myself as a, you know, homosexual person, then I don't think the societal forces are that strong to decide, you know, to decide your sexual orientation. So yeah, that's why I think it just doesn't matter. Right?
All right, for this, all these things, three things you just mentioned is totally unacceptable in my country. It's like we have a stigma for them. So even if I'll not say there is no one, or we don't have such in my country, maybe some people are doing it secretly, but they don't show it out as I'm seeing here in Thailand. Here it's like they can just say it and then it's okay. But in my country, even if you just say, you'll be stigmatized and nobody wants to become close to you, or nobody wants you as a friend. And then it's also against, as I said before, it's also against my religion, as the Christianity from the Bible that we study. It's totally unacceptable.
I think there's a lot of factors that facilitate like the changes that we are seeing today, right? So some of the factors that we can see is society become more free, and there's a lot of I think it's also related to the changes in education, and then the way people do politics, and then also there's also like the way people supporting the family, so that come with the way people do economy, like to generate income, So I think that all in some way they all contribute to the changes, because now politics needs people support from different groups. So that means that politics also have to adjust, and they have to show that they support different groups, and doesn't matter if they have a different sexual orientation. And so that means that in a way the politics can facilitate these changes. It's also education. So education also talked about how society should accept sexuality and sexual desire more in an open society, and that contribute to the changes. And it is also the way that people generate income. So now that everybody have to work and then have to do some kinds of activity to generate income. So that means people don't have to rely on other people much. So that means they have more freedom to decide for their life. So they make decisions about what they want. And it's also about how, so the decision also can enhance their decision making power about how to manage their life as well. So that also sexual desire is also a part of their life, right? So if they don't have to worry about pleasing other people, so that means they can pursue what kinds of pleasure that they want in their life. So that all facilitating these changes in a modern society.
Based on the results of our interviews, we noticed some significant factors that influence people's perceptions towards sexuality and sexual orientations. The concept of sexuality is practiced based on different countries' cultural backgrounds. Regarding the finding, firstly, cultural norms in society are obviously one of the significant factors that influence people's perception. It is because gender is socially constructed by social norms and values. It is hard to deny the cultural norm that already exists in history. Otherwise, if any acts that stray from what is socially intended gender are subjected to punishment. Second, religious belief is one of the main factors that shape people's perception of sexuality and sexual orientations, because religions teach people how to behave morally. And non-traditional sexual orientations such as homosexual, pansexual, or asexual are believed against religious teaching according to some religions. Thirdly, social institutions such as families and schools are one of the most obvious factors that generate stereotypical ideas about sexuality and sexual orientations. For example, when they are young, people are taught about traditional gender norms, morality related to sexuality, like how to behave like a girl or a boy through their parents and schools. Among the various participants, the participants have different thoughts and opinions. However, in general, to analyze the changes of society, there are several factors which make the social changes, which are demonstrated by the participants as follows. Firstly, the raising awareness of participant aspects on the diverse sexuality is the primary key in education for generations. Secondly, the widely growing globalization and modernization, along with media literacy, is another social impact on sexuality. Plus, politics and mobility are important factors for the analysis process because the policy could define the people into the form of limited expression and identity, as well as mobility can cause social changes along with the challenging cultural shock and the openness of new communities. Moreover, these factors coincide effects with advantages and disadvantages in terms of the social changes towards the perspective of participants. To sum up, their perspective, practices, and behaviors towards sexuality and gender identification and recognition have changed along with the changes of society. However, some strong religious dedication and cultural influences make some people still hardly escape from traditional perception in some contexts.